I am Lindsay Evans, 25, and literally last week my rep as the family glue? Yeah, it totally backfired. The piece I'd been holding together that I worked my butt off to keep solid, it blew up into a full-on family meltdown right in the middle of my ordinary Tuesday evening at home. My parents, who I'd always bent over backward for, straight up demanded I take on more than I ever signed up for, and when I didn't even get a chance to respond, the betrayal hit like a sucker punch. "We're gone, handle it," the text read, with my whole world staring back at me from my phone screen like I'd been erased. But here's the tea. Their abandonment didn't break me. It lit a spark. I'm not just surviving, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit subscribe and stay with me for the most satisfying comeback you'll ever hear. Looking back, it's almost... you wouldn't believe what I'll do once that initial numbness wears off. It started with the buzz of my phone on the coffee table. I was sprawled on the couch in my tiny apartment, the kind of place that's more cozy than spacious, with mismatched pillows and a faint smell of the lavender candle I'd lit to unwind after a long shift at the bookstore. My feet ached from standing all day, recommending thrillers to customers who barely looked up from their own screens. I reached for the phone without thinking, expecting maybe a meme from a friend or a reminder about tomorrow's inventory count. The screen lit up with Mom's name, and my thumb swiped it open automatically. The message was short, too short for what it carried. "Lindsay, your father and I have moved to Barcelona. We've taken what we need from the account. Bryony's daughter is yours now. Don't contact us." I read it once, blinked, and read it again. My heart did this weird stutter, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to race or stop altogether. Barcelona? The word hung there, exotic and absurd, like something from a travel brochure I'd never afford. And Alara, my sister's baby, barely 6 months old, was mine? Just like that? I sat up straighter, the couch cushions shifting under me with a soft creak. My fingers tightened around the phone, knuckles going white as I stared at the words. No emojis, no explanations, just cold facts punched out in text. I could picture Mom typing it, her manicured nails clicking on the screen, lips pursed in that way she had when she was done with a conversation. Dad probably hovering in the background, avoiding eye contact like he always did during family arguments. But this wasn't an argument. This was erasure. A laugh bubbled up in my throat, sharp and disbelieving, but it died before it could escape. I pressed the phone to my forehead, closing my eyes against the sting building there. The apartment felt suddenly too quiet, the hum of the fridge in the kitchen mocking me. I'd always been the one holding things together, the mediator when Bryony's latest drama exploded, the one who balanced the checkbook for our shared family account because no one else bothered. I'd sacrificed weekends, date nights, even that promotion at work last year because family comes first, as Mom always said. And now, they'd emptied the account, left me with a baby? I scrolled up through our message history, desperate for context. There were the usual banal exchanges. "Pick up milk on your way home?" from a month ago, when they were still pretending everything was normal. A photo I'd sent of Alara's first smile captioned, "Isn't she cute?" Mom had replied with a heart emoji. Nothing hinted at this. No fights, no warnings, just poof. Gone. My breath came faster now, shallow and ragged. I stood up, pacing the small living room, my socks sliding on the worn hardwood floor. The walls seemed to close in, posters of far-off places I'd tacked up as motivation now feeling like cruel jokes. Barcelona? They'd talked about retiring there once in vague, dreamy terms over Sunday dinners. The sun, the culture, Dad would say, his eyes lighting up in a way they never did for my stories about work or my half-hearted attempts at online courses. But to actually do it? And take everything? I thought about the bank account. It was a joint one, set up years ago when Bryony got pregnant and bailed on responsibility, flitting off to who knows where with her latest boyfriend. I'd contributed the most, scraping from my paycheck to build a safety net for all of us. Last I checked, there was enough for emergencies, maybe a few thousand. Now, I grabbed my laptop from the side table, fingers fumbling as I logged into the app. The balance stared back. 0. Transferred out that morning to an account I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped, a cold wave washing over me. Alara. Where was she? The text said she was mine, but panic surged as I realized she must be with them, or... No. They wouldn't. I dialed Mom's number, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. It rang once, twice, then straight to voicemail. "This is Diane Evans, leave a message." Beep. I hung up, tried Dad, same thing. Bryony's number? Disconnected? As it had been for weeks since her last vanishing act. I sank back onto the couch, the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. Alara was probably at the house, our family home, the one I'd grown up in, with the creaky stairs and the backyard swing set rusted from disuse. I hadn't been there in a couple of days, too busy with work. What if she was alone? The thought propelled me to my feet again. I snatched my keys from the hook by the door. Shrugging on my jacket with jerky movements, the zipper caught, and I yanked it free, cursing under my breath. Outside, the evening air was crisp, biting at my cheeks as I hurried to my beat-up sedan parked on the street. The engine turned over with a reluctant cough, and I peeled out, tires squealing faintly. Streetlights blurred as I drove the familiar route to the suburbs, my mind racing ahead. What would I find? An empty house? A note? Alara crying in her crib? The drive felt endless, each red light a torment. I gripped the steering wheel, nails digging into the leather. Memories flashed unbidden. Mom's dismissive wave when I'd talk about my dreams of writing a book someday. Dad's absent nods. Bryony, always the golden child despite her messes because she was spirited. And me, reliable Lindsay, the one who cleaned up. The one they could count on to stay put. I pulled into the driveway, the house dark except for a single porch light. My heart pounded as I fumbled with the spare key under the mat, still there at least. The door creaked open and I flipped on the hall light, calling out softly, "Hello, Alara?" A faint cry answered from upstairs. Relief flooded me, followed by a fresh wave of anger. I took the stairs 2 at a time, bursting into the nursery. There she was in her crib, red-faced and wailing, her tiny fists waving. The room smelled of diaper and formula, a bottle half empty on the changing table. How long had she been alone? Hours? I scooped her up, her warm weight settling against my shoulder as I shushed her gently. "It's okay, baby girl. Aunt Lindsay's here." She quieted a bit, hiccuping into my neck. But as I rocked her, the numbness started to crack. This wasn't just a text, this was real. They'd planned this, left her like luggage. I carried her downstairs, flipping on more lights. The living room looked normal, couch pillows plumped, remote on the coffee table. But the kitchen told a different story. Cabinets half empty, fridge bare, except for some condiments. They'd packed essentials, left the rest. On the counter, a folder caught my eye. I set Alara in her bouncer seat, strapping her in with trembling hands, and opened it. Passports, mine was there but theirs were gone. Plane tickets to Barcelona dated that day. And a document, power of attorney, naming me Alara's guardian, my signature forged at the bottom, sloppy but passable. The paper crumpled in my fist. Betrayal burned hot now, replacing the shock. They'd thought of everything, emptied the account, forged papers, vanished. And me? Left holding the pieces. I sank to the floor beside Alara, her gurgles a stark contrast to the storm inside me. What now? Call the police? Lawyers? But first, I had to breathe. Just breathe. The night stretched on as I fed her, changed her, rocked her back to sleep in the guest room. My old room, really. Exhaustion tugged at me, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, I lay there, phone in hand, rereading that text. The spark ignited earlier flickered stronger. They thought I'd crumble, but I wouldn't. I'd fight, for Alara, for myself. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of uncovering how deep their planning went. As I lay there in the dim glow of the nightlight, Alara's soft breaths filling the silence of my old bedroom, my mind wouldn't shut off. The forged document still clutched in my hand like a venomous thing. I stared at the ceiling cracks I'd memorized as a kid. How had it come to this? The abandonment wasn't a snap decision. It was the culmination of years where I'd been invisible. My efforts to keep us all afloat, dismissed like background noise. The flashbacks hit me then, unbidden and vivid, pulling me back through the years of neglect that had paved the way for this night. It started small, those early memories that shaped me into the family fixer. I was maybe 10, sitting at the kitchen table with my homework spread out, math problems I'd aced, a spelling test with a gold star. Bryony, 2 years older, had just come home from school with a detention slip for talking back to a teacher. Mom swooped in, hugging her tight, murmuring, "Oh, sweetie, they just don't understand your spirit." Dad chuckled from his recliner, newspaper in hand, saying, That's my firecracker. Meanwhile, I held up my test, voice small. Look, I got 100. Mom glanced over, nodded absently. That's nice, Lindsay. Now help set the table. No hug, no praise, just duty. I folded the paper away, cheeks burning, and grabbed the plates from the cabinet, my little hands stacking them carefully to avoid chips. That pattern stuck. By high school, I'd learned to anticipate needs before they arose. Bryony's spirit meant boyfriends coming and going, late nights, slammed doors. I'd cover for her, telling Mom she was at a study group when she was out partying, cleaning up the mess of crumpled tissues and mascara stains in our shared bathroom. Once, after Bryony crashed Dad's car joyriding, I used my babysitting money to pay for the deductible, forging a note saying it was from a school fundraiser. When the insurance check came, Dad patted Bryony on the back. Accidents happen, kiddo. You're okay. That's what matters. I stood in the doorway, waiting for a thank you that never came. Instead, Mom sighed at me. Lindsay, could you run to the store? We're out of milk again. My achievements? They were footnotes. I graduated high school with honors, speech prepared for the ceremony. But Bryony had a meltdown that morning. Her latest boyfriend dumped her, and the family spent the drive consoling her, tissues passing around like communion. At the event, I walked the stage alone in the crowd's eyes, diploma in hand, while back home, the celebration dinner turned into Bryony's pity party. Poor thing, her heart's broken, Mom cooed, slicing extra cake for her. I ate my piece in the kitchen, standing up, the taste bitter. Good job today, Dad mumbled as he passed by, but his eyes were on the TV. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, and washed the dishes without being asked. College was my quiet rebellion, or so I thought. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing and tutoring, to afford community college, majoring in English, because books were my escape. Bryony dropped out after 1 semester, declaring it stifling her creativity, and moved back home. Mom and Dad, they remodeled the basement for her, calling it her studio, for vague art projects that never materialized. When I got my associate's degree, I invited them to the small ceremony. We're proud, Mom said over the phone, but they didn't come. Bryony had a migraine, and they couldn't leave her. I stood there in my cap and gown, a friend snapping a photo, the smile forced. That night, I cried in my dorm, fists clenched around the cheap frame I'd bought for the diploma. The family account started then, my idea to help everyone. I'd deposit chunks of my paychecks, building a buffer for emergencies. Bryony dipped in constantly, for concert tickets, new clothes, essentials. Mom and Dad used it for bills when Dad's hours got cut at the factory. Me? I skimped on my own groceries to keep it afloat, eating ramen while they ordered takeout. You're so responsible, Mom would say offhandedly, like it was a given, not a choice. No one asked how I managed, they just assumed I did. When Bryony got pregnant at 22, the favoritism peaked. She showed up at the door, belly swelling, no father in sight. I can't do this alone, she wailed. Mom enveloped her in a hug, Dad fetched her bags. They turned my old room into a nursery, painting it soft blue without asking if I'd mind. I was living in my apartment by then, but I commuted back often, helping with doctor appointments, assembling the crib with screws that pinched my fingers bloody. Alara arrived in a flurry. Bryony screaming, me holding her hand in the delivery room because Mom fainted and Dad paced outside. When the nurse placed the baby in Bryony's arms, the room lit up with joy. Our little miracle, Mom beamed. I stood back, wiping sweat from my brow, the one who'd driven them there at 2 a.m. Post-birth, Bryony's spirit turned restless. She'd leave Alara with me for quick errands that stretched into days. I'd juggle work shifts, bottle feedings, midnight wake-ups, my eyes gritty with fatigue. Mom praised Bryony for bouncing back so well, taking her shopping while I changed diapers. Dad would ruffle Alara's hair and say, "Good thing Auntie Lynn's here." But gratitude? Sparse. Once, after a week of solo caregiving while Bryony found herself in some retreat, I confronted them. "I need help too," I said, voice cracking in the living room. Mom tilted her head. "But you're so good at this, Lindsay. Bryony's going through a phase." Dad nodded, avoiding my gaze. Bryony smirked from the couch. "Yeah, sis, chill." My efforts at holding us together were invisible labor. I'd mediate arguments. Bryony versus parents over money, parents versus each other over bills. I'd plan holidays, cook meals, balance that account meticulously. Last Christmas I saved for weeks to buy thoughtful gifts. a scarf for Mom, tools for Dad, a necklace for Bryony. They opened them with polite thanks. Wait, but the real excitement was Bryony's announcement of a new tattoo, funded by the account. "It's symbolic," she gushed. Mom hugged her. Dad laughed. My gifts sat forgotten under the tree as I cleared plates. Lying there now, Alara's crib beside the bed, the flashbacks coalesced into a painful clarity. They'd always favored Bryony's chaos because it demanded attention, while my steadiness was taken for granted. I'd built the glue, but they never saw the cracks it hid in me. The forged power of attorney? It was the ultimate dismissal, thrusting Alara onto me like an afterthought, knowing I'd handle it. Tears slipped down my cheeks, hot and silent. I wiped them away, fist clenching the sheet. The numbness from the text was fading, replaced by a simmering resolve. They'd left, but the echoes of neglect lingered, fueling something new in me. I wouldn't let this define us, Alara and me. But first I had to face the depth of their planning, the documents whispering more betrayals. As dawn crept through the curtains, I sat up, reaching for my phone to start cataloging what I'd need. The fight was just beginning. As dawn crept through the curtains, painting the room in soft grays, I sat up slowly, my back aching from the lumpy mattress I'd outgrown years ago. Alara stirred in her crib, letting out a small whimper that tugged at me instantly. I reached over, gently patting her back until her breathing evened out again. My phone lay on the nightstand, screen dark, but I didn't pick it up yet. Instead, I let the quiet settle, the weight of the night pressing in. The flashbacks had left me raw, but they also stirred something deeper. A memory of the moment I'd decided enough was enough, the aha that sparked my hidden resilience. It wasn't dramatic, no lightning bolt or tearful vow. It was quiet, deliberate, born from exhaustion and a flicker of self-preservation amid the family chaos. It happened about a year ago, right after one of Bryony's epic blow-ups. She'd stormed out after a fight with Mom over money again, leaving Alara with me for what turned into a 10-day stretch. I was juggling double shifts at the bookstore, coming home to a crying infant and a sink full of bottles. My apartment smelled like sour milk and desperation. That night, after finally getting Alara down, I collapsed on the floor, back against the couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily. My hands trembled from fatigue, fingers raw from scrubbing pacifiers. "Why am I doing this?" I whispered to the empty room. The family account was dipping low, my contributions the only thing keeping it positive, but no one noticed. Bryony texted sporadically, "Text sis, back soon." Mom called once, "You're a lifesaver, Lindsay." But the praise felt hollow, like crumbs. That's when the doubt hit hardest. What if I stopped? What if I let it all fall apart? The thought terrified me. I'd always been the glue, but it also ignited a spark. I pulled my laptop over, the screen's glow harsh in the dim light. I'd toyed with side gigs before, freelance writing gigs from online ads, but nothing stuck. That night though, I searched deeper. Ways to build passive income quietly. Forums popped up, stories of people like me, overlooked, overworked, creating safety nets in secret. One post stood out, a woman who'd started selling digital planners on Etsy, turning her organizational skills into cash without fanfare. It clicked. I was the planner, the cataloger, the one who made lists for everyone else. Why not for myself? I started small, right there on the floor. Downloaded free design software, Canva, simple and intuitive. My eyes burned, but I sketched a basic meal planner, drawing from my own frantic schedules, balancing work and family duties. Colors soft, layouts clean. Uploaded it to Etsy before I could overthink, pricing it $5. Hit publish, then shut the laptop, heart pounding like I'd committed a crime. Sleep came fitfully. Doubts whispering, "Who'd buy from you? You're not creative like Bryony." The next morning, a notification pinged as I warmed Alara's bottle. One sale. $5 minus fees, but it was mine. I stared at the email, a grin cracking my tired face. I fed Alara one-handed, checking the shop. Another download. By evening, 5 more. It wasn't much, but it was proof. I could build something without permission or praise. The struggle intensified from there. Days blurred into a grind. I'd work the bookstore till close, rush home to Alara if she was with me, then hunker down after her bedtime. My fingers flew over the keyboard, creating more products. Budget trackers inspired by the family account I'd managed, journaling prompts from my own unspoken frustrations, even baby routine charts drawn from the chaos Bryony left behind. Each design was a quiet rebellion. Practical, unflashy, like me. Doubts clawed constantly. One night, after a design flopped, no sales for days, I slammed the laptop shut, tears stinging. "This is stupid," I muttered, pacing the kitchen, bare feet cold on the tile. The fridge hummed mockingly, empty except for yogurt and formula. What if it failed? What if the family found out and laughed? Bryony would call it boring, Mom unnecessary. I clenched my fists, nails biting palms, breathing through the panic. But then Alara cooed from her playpen, reaching for a toy. I knelt beside her, her tiny hand grabbing my finger. "For us," I whispered, picked up the laptop again, refined the design, added customizable fields, better fonts, relaunched. Sales trickled, then flowed. I kept it secret, depositing earnings into a separate account one they didn't know about. No fanfare, no announcements at family dinners. When Mom asked why I looked tired, I'd shrug. "Work stuff." Bryony teased, "Still shelving books? Lame." I'd smile thinly, insides buzzing with my hidden world. The shop grew, reviews poured in. This planner saved my sanity. Perfect for busy moms. Each one was validation I'd never gotten at home. Overcoming hurdles built my grit. Tech glitches, Etsy outages, file corruptions had me up till 3 a.m. Googling fixes, sweat beading on my forehead as Alara fussed. I learned SEO on the fly, tweaking titles. Minimalist budget planner for families became a bestseller. Marketing? Subtle Pinterest pins, created in stolen moments, my mouse clicking quietly while the family chatted obliviously on group texts. The massive success came gradually, then suddenly. 6 months in, a viral pin hit. Some influencer shared my baby routine bundle. Orders surged, 50, 100, 200 in a week. I stared at the dashboard, hand over mouth as the balance climbed past $10,000. Me, quiet Lindsay, had built this. No loans, no help, just persistence amid the chaos. But it wasn't easy. Anxiety peaked during family crises, like when Dad's car broke down and they dipped into the shared account without asking. I covered it, as always, but now with my secret funds cushioning me, or Bryony's latest disappearance leaving Alara for weeks. I'd rock her at night, whispering plans. "We'll be okay, baby." The doubt lingered, imposter syndrome whispering I didn't deserve it. I'd counter by listing wins. Paid off my student loans, stocked an emergency fund, even splurged on a new crib for Alara at my place. The pinnacle was realizing its scale. Last month, monthly earnings hit $5,000, more than my bookstore job. I quit quietly, telling no one, framing it as time for a change. Freedom tasted sweet, but I kept building. Expanded to courses on organization, my voice steady in recorded videos, face hidden. Enrollments grew, feedback glowing. Back in the present, as morning light strengthened, I glanced at Alara sleeping peacefully. That hidden resilience? It was my lifeline now. The betrayal stung, but I had tools they didn't know about. I'd use this safety net to protect her. I picked up my phone finally, opening my Etsy app. Balance healthy, untouched by their theft. A small smile curved my lips. The fight wasn't just beginning, it was one I'd been preparing for without knowing. But the day ahead loomed, revelations waiting in the documents they'd left behind. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, feet hitting the cool floorboards with a soft thud. Alara was still asleep, her chest rising and falling in that peaceful rhythm only babies manage. I envied her for a second. No worries, no betrayals etched into her tiny world yet. My head throbbed from the lack of sleep, a dull pulse behind my eyes, but I couldn't lie there anymore. The folder on the kitchen counter called to me like a siren, promising answers I wasn't sure I wanted. I padded downstairs quietly, avoiding the creaky third step out of habit. The house felt eerily empty, sunlight streaming through the windows in harsh beams that highlighted dust motes dancing in the air. The living room clock ticked steadily, a reminder that time hadn't stopped despite everything. I made coffee first, old routine kicking in, measuring grounds with a shaky hand, the aroma grounding me as the machine gurgled to life. Mug in hand, steam curling up, I approached the counter where I'd left the folder last night. My fingers hesitated over it, nails bitten short from stress before flipping it open again. The power of attorney stared back, my forged signature mocking me. I set the mug down hard, liquid sloshing over the rim, and spread the papers out. Plane tickets. 2, one-way to Barcelona, purchased 3 months ago. 3 months. They'd been planning this while I was depositing into the account, babysitting Alara, pretending we were a family. A bank statement clipped underneath showed transfers, systematic withdrawals over weeks disguised as bills, funneled to an offshore account. My breath hitched, a fist pressing against my sternum as if to hold my heart in place. Deeper in the folder, photos, happy snaps of Mom and Dad on a scouting trip to Spain last year, which they'd called a quick vacation. I'd stayed home watching Alara while Bryony networked at some art festival. The images showed them smiling at tapas bars, toasting with wine, no hint of the life they were plotting to ditch. A handwritten note from Bryony tucked in, "Thanks for holding down the fort, sis. Barcelona awaits. Alara's better with you anyway." Her loopy script ending with a heart. I crumpled it, knuckles white, the paper biting into my palm. The betrayal sank deeper, a cold stone in my gut. I paced the kitchen, bare feet slapping tiles, coffee forgotten. How had I missed the signs? Mom's increased errands, Dad's vague talks about fresh starts. Bryony's longer absences, her texts breezier. I'd chalked it up to normal chaos, but now it screamed premeditation. They'd orchestrated this, leaving me the cleanup crew one last time. Alara's cry echoed from upstairs, pulling me back. I took the stairs slowly, legs heavy, and lifted her from the crib. Her diaper was soaked, face scrunched in discomfort. "Hey, sweet girl," I murmured, laying her on the changing table. My hands moved automatically, wipes, powder, fresh diaper, while my mind raced. What now? The house was in their names, but with them gone, bills would pile up. The account empty meant no buffer. But my secret shop, that was untouched. I could use it, but for how long? Alara needed formula, clothes, a future. As I dressed her in a onesie, her tiny fingers grabbed mine, squeezing with surprising strength. I paused, looking into her wide eyes, so like Bryony's but innocent. "We're in this together," I whispered, a lump forming. The responsibility terrified me. I wasn't a mom, just the aunt who'd always stepped up. But walking away? Not an option. They'd known that, counting on my reliability. Downstairs again, Alara in her high chair with mashed bananas. I rifled through drawers for more clues. The junk drawer yielded passports, mine and Alara's left behind like anchors. A safe deposit key taped to an envelope, for emergencies. I pocketed it, resolve hardening. The office desk next, Dad's domain cluttered with old receipts. I sifted through, fingers dusting over yellowed papers. A will updated 6 months ago, everything to Bryony, with me as caretaker for Alara, no mention of inheritance for me. The words blurred as tears welled, but I blinked them back, jaw clenching. A calendar on the wall caught my eye, appointments crossed out, a big circle around yesterday, flight day. They'd marked it like a holiday. I ripped it down, paper tearing with a satisfying rip, and tossed it in the trash. My phone buzzed then. Work, wondering where I was. I'd quit the bookstore, but freelance clients expected designs. "Sick day," I texted back, buying time. The secret success hovered on the cusp, my shop hitting new highs, a potential partnership email in my inbox from a big digital marketplace. It could change everything, steady income, flexibility for Alara, but now this mess threatened to derail it. I sat at the table, Alara babbling with her spoon, banana smeared on her cheeks. My hands trembled as I opened my laptop, logging into the bank. Zero balance confirmed, but my personal account, secret one, showed promise. I transferred funds for essentials, fingers hovering over the keys. The breakthrough felt tainted now, overshadowed by this. Internal storm raged, anger at them, fear for us, a budding strength. I'd built that shop in shadows, now it'd light our way. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the peephole, a neighbor, Mrs. Klein, nosy but kind. I opened it a crack, Alara on my hip. "Everything okay? Saw your parents' car gone early yesterday." Her eyes darted past me, curious. "Fine," I lied, voice steady despite the churn inside. "They're traveling." She nodded, handing over mail. Bills, junk, a lawyer's letter addressed to me. Heart skipping, I thanked her, closing the door softly. The envelope felt heavy, from a firm downtown. Inside, notice of guardianship transfer, forged but filed. Legal now unless contested. Panic rose, breath shallow. I set Alara in her playpen, knees weak as I sank to the floor. The reality hit. I was Alara's guardian, knee broke in their wake, on the brink of my own leap. But doubt whispered, could I do this? Raise her, fight them legally, keep building? My fist clenched around the letter, crumpling edges. Then, a shift. I stood, wiping my face. No more invisibility. I'd catalog this, every document, every betrayal. Seek counsel. The partnership email blinked. Excited to discuss scaling your brand. My breakthrough, waiting. I'd steel myself, turn this aftermath into armor. As the morning wore on, I started a list on my phone. Lawyer, bank, supplies. Alara giggled at a toy, oblivious. The harsh reality loomed, but so did my resolve. Revelations done. Action next. The morning dragged on, Alara's giggles a fleeting anchor as I faced the wreckage they'd left behind. I sat at the kitchen table, the lawyer's letter crumpled beside my cooling coffee, my phone buzzing incessantly now that the world was waking up. Each vibration felt like a jab, pulling me deeper into the storm of disbelief that had settled over me. The documents spread out before me. Tickets, forged signatures, bank statements were a map of their betrayal. But the reality was still sinking in. I rubbed my temples, fingers pressing hard against the ache, as my phone lit up again. Notifications piled up. Emails from clients expecting new planner designs, a missed call from work, and then another text, this time from an unknown number. My stomach twisted as I opened it. Lindsay, check the house safe, important papers. B. Bryony, my sister who'd vanished with the rest, now tossing me a cryptic breadcrumb. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering over the reply button, but what could I say? Why did you do this? Where's Alara's mom? Instead, I set the phone down, hands trembling, nails digging into my palms. The safe. I'd seen the key last night, taped to an envelope. It was still in my pocket, a small, cold weight against my hip. I glanced at Alara, now in her high chair, smearing more banana on her tray, her tiny fingers sticky and determined. Stay put, kiddo, I murmured, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I stood, legs wobbly from exhaustion, and headed to Dad's office. The safe was under his desk, a squat metal box I'd never seen opened. My hands shook as I knelt, the key slipping in my sweaty grip before it clicked into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a stack of papers, a few jewelry boxes, and a USB drive labeled Family Backup. I pulled everything out, spreading it on the desk. More bank statements, older ones, showing transfers I hadn't noticed, small at first, then larger, siphoning the account dry over months. A lease agreement for an apartment in Barcelona, signed by Mom and Dad, dated 6 months ago. My breath caught, a sharp hitch in my chest. They'd been planning this for half a year, smiling at me over dinners, while plotting their exit. A photo slipped from the pile, Bryony, Mom and Dad at the airport, grinning, suitcases in hand. Taken yesterday, judging by Bryony's outfit, the same scarf she'd worn last week when she dropped Alara off for a day. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I ignored it, flipping through more papers. A letter from a lawyer, not the one I'd received, detailing the guardianship transfer. Lindsay Evans agrees to assume full responsibility for Alara Evans. My forged signature again, bold and wrong, like a slap. I pressed my knuckles to my mouth, stifling a sob. The disbelief wasn't just shock now, it was a wave, crashing over me, pulling me under. How could they be so meticulous, so cruel? Another buzz. This time, a voicemail. I played it, holding the phone to my ear with a shaking hand. Bryony's voice casual, like she was ordering coffee. Hey sis, hope you're not too mad. Alara's better with you. She's too much for me right now. Check the safe, okay? Love you. The love you landed like a blade, careless and sharp. I slammed the phone down, the sound echoing in the quiet office. Alara's babbling stopped for a moment, then resumed, oblivious. I grabbed the USB drive, hands clumsy as I plugged it into Dad's ancient desktop. The screen flickered to life, files loading slowly, folders labeled taxes, travel, Alara. I clicked the last one, heart pounding. Photos of her, medical records, a birth certificate, and a video time-stamped a month ago. I hesitated, cursor hovering, then clicked. Bryony's face filled the screen, her makeup flawless, voice light. Hey Lindsay, if you're watching this, we're probably gone. Sorry to spring this on you, but you're so good with her. Mom and Dad agree. You're the stable one. We've set things up so you're Alara's guardian. It's legal, don't worry. We just need a fresh start. You've got this. She smiled, blew a kiss, and the video ended. I stared at the black screen, my reflection distorted in it, eyes wide and hollow. The wave of disbelief surged again, hotter now, laced with rage. I gripped the desk's edge, wood biting into my palms, and forced a deep breath. They'd recorded this, planned it, while I was changing diapers, paying bills, keeping their world together. My jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. I wanted to scream, to throw the monitor across the room, but Alara's coos from the kitchen stopped me. I couldn't unravel. Not yet. Another call came through, this time from Mrs. Klein, the neighbor. I answered, voice flat. "Lindsay, dear, there's a delivery guy here. Says it's urgent for you." I muttered thanks, hung up, and trudged to the door, Alara on my hip. The delivery was a package, no return address. Inside, a car seat, brand new, with a note, "For Alara, B." My sister's handwriting again. I dropped the note like it burned, my fingers curling into fists. Back inside, I set Alara in her playpen, my movements mechanical. The phone kept buzzing, texts, voicemails, all from numbers I didn't know. One read, "Lindsay, it's Mom's friend Carol. Heard they left, you okay?" Another, "Call me re guardianship. T. Lawson-esque." The lawyer. I ignored them, my eyes drifting back to the safe's contents. A small notebook caught my attention, tucked under the statements. Mom's handwriting, lists of expenses, flights, apartment deposits, even a celebration dinner in Barcelona. They'd budgeted their escape while I'd budgeted diapers. I sank into Dad's chair, the leather creaking under me, and pressed my hands to my face. The disbelief was suffocating, each new piece of evidence a brick on my chest. They'd choreographed this, every step, knowing I'd be left holding the bag. My phone buzzed again, a client email, urgent, about a design deadline. My secret shop, my lifeline, felt miles away now, buried under this mess. Alara's giggle broke through and I looked up. She was waving a rattle, oblivious to the chaos. I stood, knees shaky, and picked her up, her warmth steadying me. "We're not done," I whispered, kissing her forehead. The disbelief was still there, raw and heavy, but something else flickered beneath it, a spark of defiance. I'd face this, catalog every shred of their deceit, and build a plan. The lawyer's letter lay on the desk, a starting point. I'd call, fight, protect us. But first, I needed to breathe through the waves, let the shock settle into something I could use. The shock was settling, hardening into something sharper as I stood in the kitchen, Alara's rattle jangling in her playpen. The lawyer's letter sat on the counter, its crisp edges taunting me with the weight of its contents. My forged signature, a guardianship I never agreed to, their escape now legally binding. The morning light had shifted to noon, harsh through the windows, illuminating the chaos of papers strewn across the table, tickets, statements, Bryony's careless note. My hands itched to sweep them into the trash, but instead, I grabbed the letter again, fingers creasing the paper as I read the words that made it official. I was Alara's guardian, abandoned by design. I set Alara in her high chair, her chubby hands grabbing for a sippy cup, and forced myself to focus. The phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, probably another well-meaning neighbor, or worse, another lawyer. I ignored it, my pulse loud in my ears as I dialed the number on the letter, T. Lawson-esque, family law. The line rang twice before a crisp voice answered, "Lawson and Associates, how may I assist you?" "Hi, this is Lindsay Evans," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I got your letter about guardianship of Alara Evans." My throat tightened, but I pushed through. "I need to understand what's happening." A pause, then a shuffle of papers. "Ms. Evans, I'm glad you called. I'm Thomas Lawson. Can you confirm you received the guardianship transfer documents?" His tone was professional, but it carried an edge of caution, like he knew this wasn't simple. "Yes," I said, glancing at the forged signature. "But I didn't sign this, it's not my handwriting." My fingers tightened around the phone, nails digging into my palm. Another pause, longer this time. "That's a serious claim, Ms. Evans. Can you come to our office? We should discuss this in person. Today, if possible." His voice softened slightly. "This is a delicate situation." Delicate. The word grated, like a polite gloss over betrayal. "I'll be there in an hour," I said, hanging up before he could respond. My hands shook as I set the phone down, the reality crashing in. They'd filed this, made it legal, knowing I'd be trapped. I looked at Alara, her eyes bright as she banged her cup against the tray, oblivious to the storm. "We're going for a ride, kiddo," I murmured, lifting her out. Her warmth grounded me, but my chest felt tight, like I was breathing through a straw. I packed a diaper bag with mechanical precision, bottles, diapers, a spare onesie, each item a reminder of the role they'd thrust on me. The car seat from Bryony's delivery sat by the door, mocking me with its newness. I strapped Alara in, her gurgles a stark contrast to the fury building inside me. The drive to the lawyer's office was a blur, city streets passing in smears of color as I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. My mind replayed Bryony's video, her breezy "You've got this?" and I wanted to scream. They'd planned this down to the legalities, leaving me no choice. The office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and chrome, the kind of place that screamed money my family never had. I carried Alara inside, her weight a steady anchor as I navigated the polished lobby. A receptionist ushered me to a conference room where Lawson waited, a man in his 50s, gray suit, kind eyes that didn't match the gravity of his words. "Ms. Evans," he said, standing, offering a hand. I shook briefly. "Please, sit." I settled Alara on my lap, her tiny fingers clutching my shirt as I slid the letter across the table. "This isn't my signature," I said, voice low but firm. "They forged it. My parents and sister, they left, took everything and dumped her on me." My eyes burned, but I held his gaze, daring him to dismiss me. Lawson leaned forward, scanning the document, his brow furrowing. "This was filed 2 weeks ago," he said, flipping to a notarized page. "It claims you consented during a meeting with your parents and Ms. State. Bryony Evans, the notary's stamp is here." He tapped the paper, then met my eyes. "You're saying you weren't present?" "Never," I snapped, my voice cracking. "I didn't know they were leaving until yesterday. A text, that's how they told me. Then I found this." I pulled the folder from my bag, spilling out the tickets, the bank statements, Bryony's note. His eyes widened slightly as he sifted through them, fingers pausing on the photo of them at the airport. "This is troubling," he said, leaning back, hands folding on the table. "If the signature is forged, we can challenge the guardianship, but it's not simple. They've left the country and international cases are complex. Do you have proof? Anything showing you didn't consent?" I nodded, pulling out my phone. "Bryony sent a video. She admits they planned it, said I'm the stable one." I played it, her casual voice filling the room, each word a fresh cut. Lawson watched, jotting notes, his pen scratching softly. When it ended, he exhaled slowly. "This helps," he said. "It's not conclusive, but it's a start. We'll need to file a motion to contest the guardianship, gather evidence of the forgery, and possibly involve the authorities for the financial aspect." He glanced at Alara, who was chewing her fist, then back at me. "You're prepared to take this on? It'll be a fight." I swallowed hard, my hand tightening around Alara's tiny waist. "I don't have a choice," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "She's mine now, whether I signed or not, but I want them held accountable." Lawson nodded, respect flickering in his eyes. "Then we start today. I'll draft a petition to freeze the guardianship and request a handwriting analysis. The bank transfers, those could be fraud. You'll need to provide statements, any communication." I nodded, my jaw tight. "I've got everything. They left it all behind, like they knew I'd find it." My voice wavered, but I pushed through. "How long will this take?" "Months, maybe longer," he said honestly. "But we'll move fast on the emergency motion to protect you and the child." He hesitated, then added, "You're doing the right thing, Lindsay. Most wouldn't handle this with your clarity." Clarity. I almost laughed, bitter and low. It wasn't clarity, it was survival. I thanked him, gathering Alara's things with hands that still shook. As we left, the weight of the meeting settled in. The guardianship was official, a legal cage they'd locked me in with meticulous precision. My family hadn't just left, they'd engineered my life to suit their escape. Back in the car, I strapped Alara in, her sleepy eyes meeting mine. "We're gonna be okay," I whispered, more to myself than her. The disbelief was fading, replaced by a cold determination. They'd made it official, but I'd make it my own. The lawyer's words echoed, a fight. I was ready, but the next step, facing the depth of their planning, would test me further. The lawyer's words, a fight, echoed in my head as I drove back from the office, Alara dozing in her car seat, her soft snores barely audible over the hum of the engine. The city blurred past gray buildings and flashing lights, but I barely registered them. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, as the weight of the guardianship confirmation pressed down. They'd locked me into this role with forged papers and a smile, and the realization left me raw, teetering between fury and despair. My phone, propped in the cup holder, had been silent since leaving Lawson's office, and the quiet felt ominous, like the calm before a storm I couldn't yet see. I pulled into the driveway of the family house, the place feeling less like home and more like a crime scene with every passing hour. The porch light flickered, casting uneven shadows as I unbuckled Alara, her warmth against my chest a fleeting comfort. Inside, I set her in her playpen with a rattle, my movements mechanical, my mind still churning over Lawson's advice. Gather evidence, catalog everything. The folder of documents sat on the kitchen counter, but I couldn't face it again. Not yet. Instead, I sank onto the couch, head in my hands, the exhaustion of the past 24 hours crashing over me like a wave. That's when my phone buzzed, a single sharp vibration that made me flinch. Not another unknown number, not Bryony's taunting texts. This was an email notification, the sender's name catching me off guard. Nora Patel, Brightleaf Marketplace. My breath hitched. Nora was the contact for the partnership I'd been chasing, the one that could scale my Etsy shop into something bigger. A lifeline for me and Alara. I'd almost forgotten it amid the chaos, the email sitting unopened since yesterday morning. I opened it, eyes scanning the screen, heart pounding. Dear Lindsay, we're thrilled with your portfolio and would love to discuss a collaboration to feature your digital planners on our platform. Your story of balancing work and family resonates with our audience. Can we schedule a call tomorrow? The words blurred as tears welled, a mix of relief and disbelief. My secret success, built in stolen moments while my family dismissed me, was breaking through at the exact moment I felt most broken. I pressed a hand to my mouth, stifling a sob, afraid to wake Alara. The timing felt surreal, like the universe was throwing me a rope just as I was drowning. I reread the email, fingers trembling over the screen, and let the implications sink in. Brightleaf was huge, a curated marketplace for digital creators with a reach that could triple my income. Stability, flexibility, a future for Alara without scraping by. I'd pitched them months ago, pouring my heart into a proposal about organizing chaos, drawing from my own life without revealing the cracks. They'd seen something in me, something my family never had. I stood, pacing the living room, socks whispering on the hardwood, my hands clenched and unclenched, a nervous tick as I processed this turning point. The guardianship papers loomed in my peripheral vision, but this email, it was a spark, a reminder of what I'd built despite them. I stopped by Alara's playpen, watching her chew on a toy, her innocence steadying me. "We've got a shot, kid," I whispered, voice cracking. I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table, sitting cross-legged on the couch as I opened my Etsy dashboard. Sales were steady, reviews glowing, but this partnership could change everything. I drafted a reply to Nora, fingers flying, keeping it professional but warm. "I'd love to discuss this tomorrow. Thank you for this opportunity." I hit send, my chest loosening slightly, like I'd exhaled a breath I'd been holding for years. But the moment of hope was fragile. As I closed the laptop, my phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from an unknown number. I hesitated, thumb hovering, then played it. A woman's voice, unfamiliar but kind. "Lindsay, this is Sarah from First Steps Daycare. We know each other from the bookstore. I heard about your parents and Alara. If you need help, call me. I've got space for her, no charge for now." The message ended, and I stared at the phone, tears spilling over. Sarah. I remembered her vaguely, curly hair, always buying parenting books, chatting about her daycare during my shifts. She must have heard through the neighborhood grapevine, Mrs. Klein's gossip network probably. The offer pierced me, a kindness I hadn't expected in this mess. My family had left me to sink, but here was a near stranger reaching out. I saved her number, my throat tight, the spark from Nora's email flaring brighter with this new ally. I stood again, restless, and walked to the kitchen, eyes falling on the folder. The guardianship was official, the betrayal carved in ink, but these moments, Nora, Sarah, were cracks of light. I pulled out a notebook, one I'd used for shop ideas, and started cataloging. Documents to show Lawson, bank records, Bryony's video. My pen scratched furiously, each word a small act of control. The USB drive from the safe caught my eye, and I plugged it back into the laptop, clicking through more files. One caught my attention. Lindsay notes. Inside, a single document typed by Mom. "Lindsay will handle Alara. Always does. Reliable." The words gutted me, confirmation they'd banked on my duty. I slammed the laptop shut, my fist pressing against my mouth to muffle the sob, but then I straightened, wiping my face. Reliable, yes, but not their doormat. Nora's email, Sarah's offer, they were proof I wasn't alone, that my quiet strength had built more than I'd realized. I checked on Alara, now asleep in her playpen, her tiny hand curled around the rattle. My resolve hardened. This call from Nora, this unexpected ally in Sarah, They changed everything. I'd fight the guardianship, protect Alara, and seize this breakthrough. They'd left me in my lowest moment, but I was rising, armed with evidence and a new path. The next step was confronting the full scope of their hypocrisy, starting with what I'd do with this catalog of their deceit. The weight of Nora's email and Sarah's voicemail lingered like a lifeline as I stood in the kitchen, the notebook of catalogued evidence open before me. Alara napped in her playpen, her soft breaths a quiet rhythm against the storm in my head. The documents, forged signatures, bank transfers, Bryony's video, stared back, each a piece of their calculated betrayal. My fingers traced the edge of the notebook, nails catching on the spiral binding as a new resolve took shape. They'd left me to drown, banking on my reliability, but I wasn't just surviving, I was ready to confront their hypocrisy, to reject the role they'd scripted for me. The first step was internal, a quiet but seismic shift, as I decided to take back control. I sat at the table, pen in hand, and began writing a letter. Not to them, not yet, but to myself. A declaration. My hand shook at first, ink smudging as I pressed too hard. "You are not their fallback," I wrote, the words raw and jagged. "You built your own world. They don't get to define you." Each sentence felt like peeling back layers of hurt, exposing the truth I'd buried under years of duty. I'd spent my life cleaning their messes, but this was a deliberate abandonment, and I wouldn't let it cage me. The phone buzzed, snapping me out of it. Another text, this time from Mrs. Klein. "Saw a car circling your street. Looked like Bryony's old boyfriend. You okay?" My stomach twisted. Jake, Bryony's last fling, the one who'd vanished before Alara was born. I'd never liked him, his slick smile and wandering eyes. Was he part of this? Another loose end they'd left me to tie up? I typed a quick, "Thanks, I'm fine," but my pulse quickened. I stood, checking the locks on the front door, my fingers lingering on the deadbolt. The house felt too big, too exposed. Back at the table, I opened my laptop, needing to ground myself. The Etsy dashboard glowed, orders ticking up, reviews piling in. This planner changed my life. Lindsay's designs are a game changer. I scrolled through, my chest loosening slightly. This was mine, built-in shadows, untouched by their theft. Nora's email sat in my inbox, a beacon. I reread it, her words about my story resonating. She didn't know the half of it, but she saw potential in me that my family never had. I drafted a mental plan. Call with Nora tomorrow. Meet Sarah about daycare. Keep Lawson moving on the guardianship. Action, not reaction. But the documents pulled me back. I flipped through them again, my eyes catching on a detail I'd missed. A receipt for a storage unit, paid in cash, dated a month ago. My heart skipped. They'd stashed something. More evidence? I grabbed the notebook, jotting down the address, a facility 10 minutes away. My hands moved faster now, fueled by a need to uncover every layer of their deceit. I'd go tomorrow after the call with Nora. Whatever was there, it was another piece of their puzzle, another way to expose their hypocrisy. A memory hit then, sharp and unbidden. Last Christmas, when I'd saved for weeks to buy gifts, Bryony had announced her tattoo plans, funded by the family account. Mom had beamed, Dad laughed, and I'd swallowed my hurt, washing dishes while they celebrated her. Later, alone in the kitchen, Bryony had leaned against the counter, smirking. "You're so predictable, Lynn," she'd said, popping gum. "Always playing the good girl." I'd gripped the sponge, water soaking my sleeves, and said nothing. That moment burned now, her words a mirror to their assumption. I'd take this hit too, because I always did. Not anymore. I stood, pacing the kitchen, my socks sliding on the tiles. The letter to myself lay unfinished, but it had done its job, clarified my anger, turned it into fuel. I grabbed my phone, pulling up Bryony's video again, her casual "you're the stable one" grated, but I paused it, staring at her smile. She thought this was a gift, leaving Alara to me. The hypocrisy was staggering. They'd praised my reliability while exploiting it, crafting a legal trap to keep me in place. I opened a new note on my phone, typing fast. "They planned this, they used me, but I'm not their pawn." My fingers hovered, then added, "I'll protect Alara, but on my terms." The words felt like a vow, steadying me. I glanced at Alara, still asleep, her tiny hand curled around a blanket. She deserved better than their chaos, and I'd give it to her. Not because they expected it, but because I chose it. The doorbell rang, sharp and jarring. I froze, heart pounding, Mrs. Klein's text flashing in my mind. "Jake?" I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. A delivery van, not a car. Just a package, more of their loose ends probably. I opened the door, retrieving a small box with no return address. Inside, a set of baby clothes, tags still on, with a note. For Alara, Mom. My fist clenched around the paper, crumpling it. Even now, they played the generous parents, as if clothes made up for abandonment. I tossed the box aside, my jaw tight. This was their hypocrisy in action, small gestures to mask their selfishness. I returned to the notebook, adding the storage unit receipt to my list. Tomorrow, I'd dig deeper, expose every detail. Lawson would need it all for the guardianship fight, and I'd need it to reclaim my life. As I sat back, my phone lit up with a new email from Nora. Looking forward to our call. Your work inspires us. My breath caught, a flicker of pride cutting through the anger. This was my power, my shop, my allies, my fight. I'd confront their deceit by building something they couldn't touch. I stood, checking on Alara, her peaceful face a reminder of why I was doing this. The hypocrisy was clear now, and I was done playing their game. The next move, reaching out to true allies, would solidify my stand. The flicker of pride from Nora's email still warmed me as I tucked Alara's blanket around her, her tiny chest rising and falling in the playpen. The crumpled note from Mom's package lay on the counter, a stark reminder of their hollow gestures. I'd spent the morning cataloging their deceit, each document a nail in the coffin of their hypocrisy, but the weight of it was suffocating. I needed air, a break from this house that echoed with their absence. More than that, I needed people who saw me, not the reliable Lindsay they'd exploited, but the real me, the one who'd built something from nothing. That's when I thought of Sarah, the daycare owner who'd left that voicemail, and my friend Mia, who'd always been my rock. It was time to lean on allies, not blood. I texted Sarah first, fingers hesitating over the keys. Hi, it's Lindsay. Can we talk about Alara's daycare spot? I'm free this afternoon. Her reply came fast. Come by at 2, bring the little one. A small smile tugged at my lips, the first genuine one all day. Then I called Mia, who picked up on the second ring. Lynn, oh my God, I heard, she said before I could speak, her voice thick with concern. Are you okay? Where are you? I swallowed the lump in my throat, explaining just enough. The text, the guardianship, the betrayal. Can you meet me at First Steps Daycare? I need you. Her "I'm there" was instant, no hesitation. I packed Alara's diaper bag, diapers, wipes, a bottle. My hands steadier now, fueled by purpose. Strapping her into the car seat, I caught her gummy smile in the rearview mirror as I drove. The daycare was a cheerful building, painted bright yellow with a mural of smiling animals on the side. Sarah greeted us at the door, her curls bouncing as she knelt to Alara's level. Hey, sweet girl, she cooed, then stood, her eyes soft but searching as they met mine. Lindsay, I'm so sorry. Let's talk inside. The daycare smelled of crayons and apple juice, a world apart from the sterile chill of the lawyer's office or the hollow family house. Mia arrived minutes later, her sneakers squeaking as she rushed in, pulling me into a hug so tight I almost broke. They're monsters, she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. I nodded, unable to speak, my hands clutching her jacket. Sarah led us to a cozy office, toys scattered in the corner, and set Alara in a bouncer, where she gurgled happily. Lindsay, tell me what you need, Sarah said, sitting across from me, her hands folded on the desk. Her kindness cracked something in me, and the words spilled out, Mom's text, the forged guardianship, the emptied account. Mia's hand found mine, squeezing hard, her jaw tight as she listened. They planned it all, I finished, voice low, and left me to clean it up. But Alara? I glanced at her, bouncing contentedly. She's mine now, and I need help. Sarah nodded, her pen tapping softly. I meant what I said, no charge for now. We've got a spot for her, mornings or full days, whatever works. You're not alone in this. Her words landed like a lifeline, warm and solid. Mia chimed in, and I'm here weekends, nights, whenever. Alara's basically my niece now. She grinned, but her eyes were fierce, protective. I exhaled, shoulders loosening for the first time in days. Thank you, I whispered, my voice catching. We talked logistics, schedules, drop-offs, Alara's routines. Sarah handed me a welcome packet, her handwriting neat on a post-it. Call anytime. Mia, meanwhile, was already planning. We're getting you a lawyer fund, Lynn. I'll rally the crew from the bookstore. They owe you for all those extra shifts. The contrast hit me hard. At the family house, I'd been surrounded by their ghosts, Mom's lists, Dad's silence, Bryony's careless notes. Every interaction was a transaction, my efforts taken for granted. Here, in this crayon-scented room, I was seen. Sarah didn't know me well, yet she offered more than my family ever had. Mia, who'd stayed up with me through college all-nighters, was ready to fight for me without a second thought. My throat tightened again, but this time it wasn't pain, it was gratitude. We stayed longer than planned, Mia playing peekaboo with Alara while Sarah showed me the daycare's nap room, bright with tiny cots and star decals. "She'll love it here," Sarah said, watching Alara giggle. I nodded, my hand resting on Alara's head, her soft hair grounding me. For a moment, I could breathe, surrounded by warmth instead of betrayal. As we left, Mia slung an arm around me, Alara in my arms. "You're stronger than they'll ever know," she said, her voice firm. "They thought they could break you, but look at you, building a life, raising her." I managed a small smile, the spark from Nora's email and Sarah's offer glowing brighter. These were my chosen family, not the ones who'd scripted my role and walked away. Driving home, Alara babbling in the back, I felt the shift solidify. The toxic family I'd clung to had crumbled, but this, Sarah's kindness, Mia's loyalty, was real. I'd cataloged their deceit, but now I was building something else, a network of allies who valued me. The guardianship fight loomed, but with these women in my corner, I wasn't alone. Back at the house, I set Alara in her playpen and checked my phone. A new email from Nora. "Confirmed for tomorrow's call. Excited to meet you." My heart lifted, but the storage unit receipt on the counter caught my eye. Tomorrow, I'd face more of their secrets, but tonight, I'd hold on to this warmth, this chosen family who'd already changed everything. The warmth from Sarah and Mia carried me through the evening, a fragile shield against the echoes of betrayal still lingering in the house. Alara was tucked in her crib upstairs, her soft snores filtering through the baby monitor as I sat at the kitchen table, the notebook of evidence open before me. The storage unit receipt stared up, its address scrawled in Mom's precise handwriting, a loose end I'd face tomorrow after the call with Nora. But tonight, I needed to build my defenses, to set boundaries that would protect Alara and me from the chaos my family had left behind. The guardianship fight was coming, and I had to be ready, not just with evidence, but with a fortress of my own making. I grabbed my phone, opening a new note titled Boundaries. My fingers hovered, then typed, "No contact without my terms." The words felt like a line in the sand, solid and unyielding. They'd vanished, but if they reached out, Bryony's texts, Mom's packages, I'd dictate how it went. No more reacting, no more cleaning their messes. I added, Alara's needs first, lawyer updates daily, shop priorities scheduled. Each point was a brick in my new foundation, a way to reclaim control. The house felt too quiet, the monitor's hum a faint reminder of Alara's presence. I stood, pacing the kitchen, my socks catching on a sticky spot from her earlier banana feast. My hands moved restlessly, wiping the counter, straightening the already neat stack of documents. The storage unit nagged at me. What had they hidden? More proof of their planning? I pushed the thought down, focusing on the now. Lawson had promised to file the emergency motion tomorrow, and I needed to be sharp for Nora's call. My shop was my lifeline, and I couldn't let it falter. I opened my laptop, pulling up my Etsy dashboard. Orders were steady, but a client email flagged urgent, a custom planner needed by tomorrow night. My stomach tightened. Deadlines didn't pause for family crises. I set a timer for an hour, diving into the design, my fingers flying over the keyboard. The work grounded me, each layout a small act of defiance. They'd left me broke, but I'd built this. As I saved the file, my phone buzzed. "Mia, checking in. You good? Need me to bring coffee tomorrow?" I smiled, typing back, "Coffee's life, thanks." Her reply was instant. "Got you, always." That prompted another boundary. I added to the note, "Lean on allies." Sarah's daycare offer, Mia's unwavering support, they were my new normal. I'd spent years pouring energy into a family that didn't reciprocate, but no more. I'd choose who got my time, my trust. The thought brought a memory. Mom's voice last Thanksgiving, praising Bryony's free spirit while I carved the turkey, my hands sticky with grease, my smile tight. "Lindsay's so dependable," she'd said, like it was a personality trait, not a sacrifice. Now, I'd depend on myself first. The lawyer's words echoed, a fight, months long. I needed legal protections, not just emotional ones. I opened a browser, searching guardianship laws and fraudulent documents, pages loaded. legal aid sites, forums of people burned by family like I was. One post stood out: get a financial lock, freeze everything. My heart raced. The bank account was empty, but my credit, my identity, had they touched those? I logged into my accounts, hands shaking as I checked my credit report. Clean for now. I set up alerts, changed passwords, my fingers clicking furiously. Another boundary: protect assets, monitor daily. The baby monitor crackled, Alara stirring. I climbed the stairs, my steps heavy, and found her fussing, eyes half open. "Hey, sweet girl," I whispered, lifting her gently. Her warmth settled me as I rocked her, her head against my shoulder. Back downstairs, I sat with her in the living room, the notebook still open. I added, "Alara's stability is non-negotiable. Daycare with Sarah, routines at home, a savings plan from my shop's earnings. They'd left her like luggage, but I'd give her a home." A text came through. "Mrs. Klein again. Saw that car again. Be careful." My pulse spiked, Jake's name flashing in my mind. Another boundary: secure the house. Tomorrow I'd change the locks, maybe get a camera. I couldn't trust their loose ends not to circle back. I replied, "Thanks, I'll handle it." My voice in my head sounded firmer than I felt. I set Alara back in her playpen, now asleep, and returned to the notebook, the final boundary: no guilt. They'd banked on my duty, my reliability, to trap me. But guilt wouldn't anchor me anymore. I thought of Bryony's video, her breezy, "You're the stable one." My jaw clenched, teeth grinding. I'd been stable for them, but now it was for us, me and Alara. The phone lit up with a reminder: Nora's call, 10 a.m. tomorrow. I exhaled, a small spark of hope flickering. The partnership could mean steady income, flexibility for Alara's needs. I drafted a quick email to Lawson, attaching photos of the forged documents, my fingers steady now. "Please start the motion, I'm ready to fight." Sent. Another brick in the fortress. As I closed the laptop, the storage unit receipt caught my eye again. Tomorrow I'd face whatever they'd hidden, but tonight, these boundaries were my shield. I stood, checking the front door's lock one last time, my hand lingering on the cold metal. The house wasn't home anymore, but it was ours for now, mine and Alara's. I'd protect it, protect us, with every tool I had. The next day would bring new battles, but I was building something stronger than their betrayal. A life on my terms, for us. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen blinds, casting slatted shadows across the table where my notebook lay open, its pages dense with boundaries and evidence lists. Alara babbled in her high chair, waving a spoon, her breakfast more on her face than in her mouth. I'd just hung up with Nora from Brightleaf Marketplace, her enthusiastic, "We're thrilled to move forward," still ringing in my ears. The partnership was real. My shop would be featured on their platform, a game changer for income and stability. But the storage unit receipt, tucked under my coffee mug, loomed like a final test. Today, I'd face whatever my family had hidden, channeling the pain of their betrayal into something tangible, a legacy of my own making for Alara and me. I dressed Alara in a fresh onesie, my hands gentle but purposeful, and packed her diaper bag for the day. Sarah had agreed to take her for a few hours, giving me time to tackle the storage unit before my next call with Lawson. As I strapped Alara into her car seat, her tiny hand grabbed my finger and I paused, her trust grounding me. "We're building something new, kiddo," I whispered, kissing her forehead. The drive to First Steps Daycare was quick, Sarah's warm smile meeting me at the door. "She'll be a star here," she said, taking Alara with ease. I nodded, throat tight with gratitude, and headed out. The storage facility was on the edge of town, a squat concrete building surrounded by chain-link fencing. My heart thudded as I pulled up, the receipt's address matching the faded sign. The manager, a gruff man with a clipboard, barely looked up as he handed me the key after checking my ID. "Unit 17 down the hall," he muttered. I walked the echoing corridor, my sneakers squeaking, the key cold in my palm. The unit's door was rusted, the lock stiff, but it clicked open after a moment's struggle. Inside, the air was musty, thick with dust. Boxes lined the walls, labeled in Mom's handwriting. Memories, Bryony's art, Miss Key. My stomach churned as I opened the first, finding old photos. Family vacations, me as a kid, always in the background, holding Bryony's hand or a picnic basket. No nostalgia, just a pang of invisibility. Another box held Bryony's half-finished canvases, paint splattered and abandoned, like her promises. I clenched my fists, nails biting my palms, and moved deeper. A small safe sat in the corner, identical to the one at home. My hands shook as I tried the key from the house. It fit. Inside, more documents, a second set of bank records showing transfers I hadn't seen, funneled through a shell account. A letter from Dad to Mom, dated months ago. Lindsay will step up, she always does, Alara's secure. My breath caught, rage flaring hot. They'd planned every detail, banking on my duty while erasing me from their future. Tucked beneath was a deed. A vacation home in Barcelona, in their names, paid with the family account's funds. I sank to the concrete floor. The papers in my lap, my hands trembling. This wasn't just abandonment, it was theft, calculated to the penny. But as the anger burned, something else sparked. Purpose. I'd been building in the shadows, my shop a quiet rebellion, and now I'd use it to reclaim what was mine. Not their money, not their name, but my story. I pulled out my phone, snapping photos of every document, my fingers steady now. Lawson would need this and I'd need it to fuel me. Back at the car, I sat for a moment, the safe's contents in a bag beside me. My phone buzzed. Mia checking in. You at the storage place? Need backup? I smiled, texting back. Got it handled, thanks hero. Her reply was a heart emoji and I felt the warmth of my chosen allies again. They'd left me to sink, but I wasn't alone. I drove to a coffee shop, needing a public space to think. Over a latte, I opened my laptop, pulling up my Etsy dashboard. The Brightleaf deal meant more than money. It was a platform to share my story, to inspire others. I drafted a new product, a resilience planner, designed for people rebuilding after chaos, with sections for boundaries, goals, self-care. Each layout poured out of me, my pain and strength woven into clean lines and soft colors. I titled it, For Alara, a Quiet Vow. An email from Lawson popped up. Motion filed, handwriting analysis scheduled, stay strong. I nodded to the screen, my jaw tight. The legal fight was on, but this planner was my fight too, a way to turn their betrayal into something positive. I'd market it with a story, not of victimhood but of rising. From chaos to control, I typed in the description, my fingers flying. Customers would buy it, but more than that, they'd see me, a creator, a survivor, not just the reliable one. As I saved the draft, a memory surfaced. Mom's voice at a family dinner, praising Bryony's artistic soul. While I cleared plates, my own dreams dismissed. Now, I was crafting something bigger than their approval, a legacy of resilience. Alara would grow up knowing her aunt built a life from ashes, not for them, but for us. I paid the bill, leaving a generous tip, my hands lighter now. Back at the daycare, I picked up Alara, her giggle lifting me further. We're doing this, I told her, buckling her in. The storage unit's secrets were another weapon. But my shop? My allies? My resolve, they were my true power. I'd reclaim my name not as theirs but as mine. The fight was far from over, but I was shaping it, building a future they couldn't touch. The fight was far from over, but I was shaping it, building a future they couldn't touch. That evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the living room in warm oranges, I sat on the couch with Alara in my lap, her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb. The house was quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic outside, and for the first time since that shattering text, my mind slowed enough to reflect, not on their betrayal, but on me. The documents from the storage unit lay sorted on the coffee table, each one a testament to their selfishness. But as I looked at them, the anger that had fueled me began to fade, replaced by a deeper clarity. This wasn't just about surviving their abandonment, it was about recognizing that my worth had never come from them. I traced Alara's palm with my finger, her skin soft and warm, and let my thoughts drift back through the chaos of the past days. The initial shock of the text, the numbness that gripped me as I drove to the house, finding her alone in her crib, it had all felt like a freefall, my world crumbling under the weight of their premeditated escape. The flashbacks to years of neglect, where my efforts were invisible, my achievements footnotes to Bryony's drama. Building my secret shop in those stolen moments, overcoming doubts that whispered I wasn't enough, turning it into a success they never saw coming. The waves of disbelief as I uncovered their plans, the forged guardianship that bound me to Alara without consent, the turning point with Nora's email illuminating a path forward, confronting their hypocrisy in that storage unit, reclaiming pieces of my legacy through my own creations. Each step had been a battle, internal and external, but sitting here now, with Alara's head against my chest, I realized the true victory wasn't in fighting them, it was in validating myself. They'd always defined me as the reliable one, the glue, but that role was a chain, forged from my own sacrifices. I'd broken it, not with revenge, but with quiet strength. My shop wasn't just income, it was proof of my resilience, a world I'd crafted where I was the center, not the shadow. Alara shifted, letting out a contented sigh, and I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. She wasn't a burden they'd dumped, she was my choice, a part of this new life I was building. I stood carefully, carrying her to the window, looking out at the neighborhood lights flickering on. The pain of their betrayal still lingered, a dull ache, but it no longer consumed me. I'd catalogued their deceit, sought legal counsel, leaned on allies like Mia and Sarah, set boundaries that protected us. The resilience planner I'd started drafting earlier, it was more than a product, it was my manifesto, a tool for others to find their own peace amid chaos. My worth wasn't in their approval or absence, it was internal, rooted in the strength I'd always had but never fully claimed. As night fell, I rocked Alara in the old chair by the crib, her eyes heavy with sleep. The reflection deepened, a gentle wave washing over me. I'd spent years seeking validation in family dinners, in balancing their account, in mediating their fights. But true peace came from within, from knowing I'd risen, not despite them, but because I chose myself. The guardianship fight would continue, the shop would grow, Alara would thrive, and I'd be there, whole and unshakable. They tried to erase me, but I'd rewritten the story. I laid Alara down, pulling the blanket over her, and whispered, "We're free, baby girl." The peace settled then, warm and complete, like coming home to myself. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family, pouring everything into them only to realize your worth was waiting inside you all along? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how you flipped the script in your life. If my journey from betrayal to breakthrough resonated, hit that like button, subscribe for more real talk stories, and share this with someone who needs a reminder that their strength is enough. Remember, the most powerful comeback isn't revenge, it's reclaiming your peace and building a life that lights you up from within. You've got this. Keep shining.